and we are back with another episode of Diffusion podcast. And today we are joined by João Ferreira, co-founder of Picnic, a platform that aggregates and facilitates the exchange of thousands of cryptocurrencies in self-custody. João, welcome, and please feel free to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Ricardo. Great to be here. A quick background on myself. I'm Brazilian Web3 and DeFi builder. I have been in the space for almost 4 years now, basically figuring out how to make DeFi more accessible, how to bring more people on chain. We believe that DeFi will be the financial rails of the future. And one of the biggest barriers we have for people to access those products is still user experience. It is too hard. Like people need to pay for education just to be able to use a wallet properly. And I think it doesn't make any sense. We need to improve products so people have an extremely safe experience, but very safe to use. And that's the problem we're tackling now with Picnic. To getting a bit more technical, we are like a new generation of wallets that's leveraging a set of technologies called account abstraction that basically allows you to deliver on-chain experiences in a very similar way that a fintech product would work. So we're creating this new category of products that we believe will replace centralized exchanges. And we have been on this current version doing that for almost a year now and seeing great progress. So now we have a few thousand monthly active users. We're transacting more than $10 million a month uh, and growing every month. We have the best month ever. And it's been a very hard journey, but we got to some point that we're starting to see results and starting to see that people really enjoy what we're building. So super happy to be here and talk about Picnic, talk about my journey as well. It's a pleasure.
Well, John, likewise, it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm super stoked with what you're building on Picnic. I believe it solves a major issue when it comes to decentralized finance. It's incredible that when you think about it, people have to pay to get educated on something that at the end of the day, it should be as easy as a fintech, as you mentioned. We had like the advent of digital banks in the last years, and it was pretty much easy for everyone to learn how to use it. And I believe the experience for crypto should be the same. Um, well, we can probably touch point like this product has been on the market for a while, and I'm sure as we talked before, you got a lot of insights from the crypto community. So how it is to build a product, a business that works like directly related with the community because there's a lot of like ongoing feedback and I can guess that kind of accelerated the way you build your own business.
Yeah, great thing to touch on community. I think we have built community and we have used it uh, in a different fashion than most people. I think in crypto communities have been a bit synonymous of people hanging around because they expect an airdrop, and I don't know, at least that's might be a too skeptical take, but I see quite a bit of that happening on where I see that. And the thing we did, we just joined existing communities in the Brazilian ecosystem. So we're not have like Picnic's community was itself like a dedicated group. That was never big. The thing we did, and that really, really helped us in our journey, was to get along with communities that were interested in what we're doing and were open to what we're doing. And we just hang out with them. We participated in Twitter spaces. We uh, went to, yeah, Twitter spaces, I think was the place where we got the first users. I would say like the first 100 users of Picnic were all from Twitter Spaces. We did giveaways. We tried a bit of everything and experimented there. And it was an amazing place for us to to get the attention we needed at that point, and to stress test how we're communicating the problem, the product, what were we solving, and what were the trade-offs in the product we had. And so really interesting discussions that got us to a place that some people started trusting what we're doing and started using our product and recommending it to some people. And eventually we started growing out of that bubble and that niche, and we tapped into bigger communities. And that has been pretty much our growth playbook now. We're just going for bigger communities as we advance and as we get more mature.
No, that's a beautiful journey, and I'm all about that as well. When it comes to community, I believe that there is a lot of them already, and sometimes I feel like we're neglecting the fact that they already have their own culture and interests. So what we can do best is to connect with them and find that sweet spot where we can help them to leverage what they already built, and I also provide them with the tools. That's our vision and tools for the commons, especially when it comes to managing public goods. But it would be also interesting for you to dive deep into how Picnic works exactly.
Okay. So the whole idea is that you can operate Picnic uh, as you would operate a fintech. So it basically it feels like a fintech or centralized exchange, but it actually is a wallet. So technically, Picnic is a wallet, but it doesn't feel like most wallets. And the user flow is basically you can log in with email. You can also log in with MetaMask in case you're a more advanced crypto user. But email is where 85% of our users log in. And when you open the web app, the first thing you see is a open dashboard that has a deposit button. And that's where things start getting more interesting. We have two very special deposit methods that are very localized and very focused in specific geographies. So we have an on and off ramp using stablecoins, both in Brazil and Europe. And what happens in those flows is that you go from money in your bank account to on-chain stablecoins very fast and for free. So you put in 100 euros and you get 100 euro stablecoins. And the advantage of that is that you still keep thinking in euros. So if you're in European, you're not thinking in dollars, you think in euros, and you're able to deliver that same UX and that same experience. So it's a very straightforward onboarding process. And the other advantage of using local stablecoins for on and off ramp is very cheap. So it's actually free and it's sustainably free. That is not something that should change over time because the on and off ramp provider, which is the stablecoin, they have other ways to make money. They make money by holding the euro you deposit and generating fees out of that. So they can subsidize the on and off ramp. So I'm extremely bullish that this specific way to on and off ramp is the way we're moving forward. So log in with email, deposit euros, and then you just choose whatever crypto you want to buy. So let's say you want to buy Brett on Base, a meme coin, which is not very easy to buy. You just select Brett and we'll route the trade from the Euro stablecoin to Brett on Base. That will be a cross-chain swap, but you as an user won't even feel that that much complexity is happening under the hood. It's just what I want to buy, and we take care of all the complexity, all the routing and the gas fees. You pay gas fees in euros, then you pay gas fees in Brad. Everything is abstracted away and very intuitive for the user. And we always think from the perspective of a user that is not Web3 native, that is just coming to on-chain. So we just translate like gas fees is just fees. And you pay fees with whatever token you have. You don't need to think that you need a separate token to pay for gas. So yeah, that's the main flow. Log in with email or app with fiat and then choose whatever asset you want to buy and click and the trade happens. You don't have to think. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to think too much. That's what makes us special.
Amazing. And it's fascinating that, from my perspective, this solution caters not only to the classical degen DeFi operator, but also the regular user coming from the TradFi. So for most people wondering, I think the experience kind of relates with what you would have in Nubank in Brazil and probably Revolut in Europe. Maybe even easier, yeah, because you mentioned you can create an account with an email. How does it work when it comes to identification and KYC? We talk a lot about self-custody and the importance of it, especially for the DeFi users. But when it comes to identification, is it necessary? Like, do you have to do a KYC? Is it difficult? How does it work?
Great question. KYC is necessary whenever you touch fiat rails. So if you create a Picnic account, you don't need to KYC at the first moment. But if you want to transfer money from your bank account to your Picnic wallet, then you need to KYC because you're touching the traditional financial system. And that is like, that's not much going around that. So you need to KYC either for reais or for euros. But in case you don't need to touch the financial rails, then no KYC is needed because it's a wallet. And one interesting fact is that the KYC is not done by Picnic. The KYC is done by the stablecoin provider. So they are the ones that handle your relationship with the traditional banking system. You are KYC'd by them, and you transfer money to uh, their bank account or to a bank account they provide for you. So everything's between the user and the stablecoin provider. Picnic is not part of that flow, which is an interesting way to think about things, and I think is very Web3 native. That is not something that makes sense when you're thinking about the Web2 mindset. But now you decouple what is wallet, what is integration with the fiat system, and as it's decoupled, you just need the KYC to on and off ramp. Nothing else is required.
And there are some part that you mentioned about stable coins. Now, next year we are supposed to have the Brazilian CBDC, but also when we think about the amount of let's say private like stable coins that we have, I wonder will there be like competition between CBDCs, which are like basically state money, digital state money, and private currencies like USDC, USDT? How like would they play a role in everything that we're building right now in DeFi? Like you have a solution that you give access to thousands of like cryptocurrencies, but I'm pretty sure there we also have access to multiple stable coins. So what is the role of stable coins in all of this, in your perspective?
Yeah. Stablecoins I see as like the solution we have now. So it's the way that you can bridge the traditional fiat system or fiat money and blockchains. Um, and I think those players are much more willingly to experiment with public blockchains and to provide services to a wide retail user base. I think if CBDCs, if like the Brazilian real decided that they would be minting reais directly on the Ethereum blockchain and they will also do on Solana, I think Brazilian real stablecoins would be in very, very bad shape. I don't think they would really have a reason to exist. But it seems to me that is quite unlikely yet that the Brazilian real CBDC will be minted directly on Ethereum mainnet, and that will be going for that specific and particular use case and will allow our users to on and off ramp. So the way I see that moving forward is that until the CBDC becomes really aggressive to go after every use case for Brazilian reais on public blockchains, I think stablecoins will still have their spot in the world. Um, and yeah, I would be very surprised if the Brazilian government and Brazilian CBDC decide to go after public blockchains in a very aggressive manner. I would be very happy if that happened. I think it would be amazing. I think the design space would be so huge, and we would really have reais natively on chain. I think that would be a really interesting thing to explore, but not something I have heard chatter of happening anytime soon, though.
The interesting thing I heard about stablecoins, I'm not quite sure, but I think USDT Tether is building like they're going beyond the just the typical, trying to have like a standard for coins around the world. They're some sort of like building a fund, which means like part of the allocated money USDT will be applied in different sorts of investments. So we can, like as I mentioned, like straight stable coins, they are much more flexible when it comes to trying different things on blockchain, and the public institutions are not yet there, but it will be interesting to see, like, let's say, like the amount of money that will be flowing in this space will be gigantic. So I see like the same way like private institutions like push the public institutions like private money like stable coins I like to call like them private money because in a certain way they are like dollar but they are private dollar. In that sense, they're much like they're agile and trying different stuff. And I feel like the public will be probably be watching that very closely to learn and do themselves as well. So when you think about your solution in the next few years, is a solution that is already integrated with DeFi. It's a notion where the public institutions are still trying to understand and get in, and you're far ahead on that game. So how do you correlate with what you're doing, for example, today, with what we saw right in the beginning of the internet? You are, in a certain way, a trailblazer.
Yeah. So the way I see this developing, I think we're basically rebuilding the financial system from scratch. I think DeFi is extremely early. It is still a toy technology. I think it's less than like it's 180,000-ish percent of like the whole financial system is DeFi. So there's an immense amount of growth to happen. I'm one of the people that believe that DeFi will be the underlying financial system for everything, and mostly because it's more efficient. You minimize trust. If you minimize trust, you minimize cost. So you can pay capital better. So it's basically a capital vortex. Very simple theory, but I think that those are the best ones. And we're building that thing from the ground up. Now use cases are extremely speculative. Um, I think we're very close to what a centralized exchange does. It's basically building digital assets and hope those things will go up in price. Um, and people, the speculation is the main use case. I think those assets are still quite new. Even Bitcoin, it is a hard asset to grasp, to value. And that is the market we are currently catering to. And step by step, I think we were able to create more real world use cases. So now on Picnic, we already have a very cheap way to move money from Brazilian reais to euros. It's much cheaper than Wise. It is faster. Um, it it is better in important dimensions, and it will only get better with time. Um, so super bullish to be part of this thing, and very uncertain of how it will develop forward. I think the fundamentals are there. They're very strong. We're also seeing quite a few. tie shifts in another areas of technologies. I have been watching AI as closely as I can, and there's already super weird stuff happening between crypto and AI. The AI meme coins with AI agent deploying meme coins. I think that's super toyish still, but that's a very weird primitive that will have those autonomous beings at some point in time, and they will very likely be using blockchains to transact value. So that will mix with everything we have, and very hard to grasp how it will develop. But I hope we pick the right wave to be in and can benefit from the development of these and other technologies.
Yeah, you have touched point on I think something that most people often don't realize. We still are building the financial system. It's an ongoing process. I remember a few years ago, there was a start of the movement, Open Finance, and for at least 3 years, when I start paying attention to DeFi, I see DeFi is the materialization of open finance, but it's something that we're still being part of and like actively contributing for what we're doing. Um, and it's just amazing that like at the same time we're using stuff, we're helping them to get built. So it's different when you think about the world that we live in. Like I remember first time like I saw a computer, it was probably what 8, 7 years old. Yeah. And now like we see like we have words in social medias. Like I see social medias as in a certain way. Like they have their own ecosystem. X is already planning to have their own payment systems. So that changes everything because we might start seeing businesses becoming their own country as well. And that kind of brings us to the network state conversation. That's what I want to hear from you. How do you see Picnic operating in this new framework of instead of nation states, network states?
Okay, great question. I'm I think network states is one of the most interesting ideas out there. I think we have been failing quite a bit in operating states, and I think network state is a great framework to improve on how we think about those sets of problems. Um, and the fundamental thing that Picnic does, but more than Picnic, the fundamental thing that DeFi does is to decouple the financial system from a state. So the way I think from DeFi is like the internet native financial system, the internet native banking rails. So it is by default uncoupled from the nation states and from governments. Like the laws from the countries we have today, they don't affect DeFi. The laws that affect DeFi are the DeFi laws, which is what is written in the code, what it is written in the smart contracts. So the way we see Picnic moving forward is giving access to that internet native financial system. So it is the internet native bank. It is the bank that the laws you follow, the rules you follow are the rules of the internet. And then you figure out ways how to make that connect with the existing nation states we have, and we also the new forms of governance that we are creating, such as network states. I think it fits perfectly with that vision of the future. It is the native financial system for that vision of the future, I would say.
Well, when I think about DeFi, like we are still in that stage that we're talking a lot about like value and price, but we haven't yet got to a point that we're like, let's say, like the last 2 years, the conversation around like RWA kind of like sparked it up. But I still am to see the conjunction between the physical world and the digital world because that will change everything when you're easily like transporting or at least digitally projecting the asset from the physical world like a commodity. digitally in DeFi, that brings a whole different lot of value than networks. So imagine when like you're having like gasoline or like rice or like even like just for the measure of having traction or which country are movementing or producing more commodities like very transparently in a blockchain. And I think that like it will be a like completely different what we are seeing right now because right now we have tokens, but those tokens are usually not pegged to anything tangible. But when you bring RWA into this, I think that's where we stop talking about speculation and which token or crypto will go up or down. So how do you see like the future of commerce, bringing commerce and logistics to what we're building?
Cool. There is one insight that was kind of new the first time I heard, which is that stablecoins are the first RWA, and I think that is quite a nuanced take, but I think it makes a lot of sense. You're actually tokenizing something that is not natively digital. It is something that we use in the off-chain economy in the traditional financial rails. And that is increasing quite a bit. I'm not sure if you have seen the stablecoin adoption charts lately, but that's one area of the crypto ecosystem that it suffered quite a bit with the bear market, but it's growing consistently. And it's a really nice chart. So I think we're already starting to see the first emergence of more real use cases in countries like Argentina and some places in Africa that inflation is terrible. That is being quite used by retail. Every now and then I hear some stories about some farmer in Brazil or some person that needs to do import and export using stable coins to settle trades. So some usage is already happening. And as we keep progressing and making tooling better, I think that will only progress. Um, to your point, there are still very few assets tokenized. There's some stocks tokenized, some treasury bills and things like that. But the magic will happen, in my opinion, when we started getting a lot of long tail things on chain and then like a American person can lend money to like a small business in Brazil or uh, be like the insurer for some farmer in Africa. That sort of uh, long tail use case that is usually on markets that are not very well connected and are generally not very efficient. That's the thing that gets me super excited about DeFi. I really believe in the vision that DeFi will be this internet native financial system, but that will be connected with every country. So it will be basically a global financial system where every country and every citizen can interact directly with each other and in a very efficient and cheap way because we don't need to rely on existing legal infrastructure and existing governments, which in most of the cases are really bad. And you can just leapfrog to the state of the art like law and judicial ecosystem, which I think it's the role that blockchains will play over the next few decades.
That's all super exciting, and I think the most amazing part is actually being part of it. We're building stuff, we're using them, we're actually seeing them developing. So everyone who has been involved until this stage know exactly what we can accomplish because we saw all the hurdles we've been through and we surpassed a lot of them. João, we are heading to the end of the podcast. It was amazing to have you with us. I'll probably just leave a small space for something that I usually like to ask people. Based on what you experienced so far and the blockchain industry space, what are your projections for the future? It can be something positive, something that you wish you like to see. Yeah. So we can offer whoever is listening all the possibilities that we have open until now.
Okay. So the one target I have for the next few years is to see DeFi becoming bigger than centralized crypto exchanges. I think that's the next step for this niche that I'm in, which is DeFi. I think it means a lot if that happens. We have many centralized exchange users already. It's probably around 600 million worldwide. And if we can get those people on chain, I think it's a huge victory for the ecosystem. And it means that we are not only delivering speculative and we're not delivering like digital assets that have a lot of speculation around them. I'm a huge believer in these assets. But you're also delivering the tech, the underlying tech. You're delivering trustless infrastructure. And that I think is the much, much bigger unlock than just fiat. Fiat is an important part of society, like the currency you operate in, it's a big block of a country. But the things that really gets me excited is being able to replace all the rest, to replace how laws work, to replace how the financial system work, to replace how states themselves work. I think that's really where I'll be able to 10x the quality of life and basically deliver a much more prosperous society to everyone. So building towards that, and that next step is seeing DeFi flip centralized exchanges, in my opinion.
I think it's all about democratizing tech, but also finance. Well, João, once again, it was amazing to have you with us today. We have a few minutes left, but I'll probably ask you to leave your social medias. I know you're active on LinkedIn, you have a presence on X, so feel free to pitch in your social medias and pick next one.
Great. It was a pleasure to be here and chat about this more philosophical things. I really like taking a look at the broader vision. Usually, I'm very focusing like day to day and what we need to get done this week. So it's always good to step back and talk a bit the broader picture. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm very active on X. It's JOAOAVF. If you're interested in talking with me, just feel free to DM me. I try to reply quicker I can. Also active on LinkedIn. It's João Ferreira. And if anyone got curious about Picnic and what we're building is usepicnic.com. And it was a pleasure to be here, Ricardo. Thank you.
Thank you too. Well, guys, this was João. This was today's episode of the Diffusion Podcast, and we are back on the next week. Bye.